On today's show, the comeback clips are back. Of the 22-point comeback victory over the Golden State Warriors, what propelled the comeback, what went so wrong in the first half, and what went so right in the second half, and how about Podcast P, game winner, adding to his list of game winners as a Clipper. Gonna be talking about it all on today's Locked On Comeback Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I went live directly after the game. And Locked On Clippers, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where I want you to let me know what you thought of the game. What was the key to the comeback? How do you feel about the Clippers after these two games against Golden State? 1 loss, 1 win. We'll take that win, though. Clippers moving up to 9-10, 6-3 since they made the move to put Russell Westbrook on the bench. 6-8 overall with James Harden. And I'm going to be talking about the big four in this game, in this episode. I'm going to be talking about the first half woes, but let's get right into the comeback clips. This was my first game of the season, as I mentioned in the last episode, that I was not going to be able to attend. The Saturday afternoon games are really difficult for me. And it was still a sellout, though, so shout out to everybody that actually went. Sellout. It didn't sound like it was totally dominated by Warriors fans. If you're at the game, let me know. But the first half was just a lack of intensity by the Clips, and again, it looked like Paul George had picked up where he left off in the last game, and that's not a good thing because he did not play well in the last game. He was not good defensively, was at fault for a couple of miscommunications. He and Kawhi had 2 miscommunications throughout the game with the difficulties guarding the Warriors off the ball. You know, they're so tough to guard off the ball, especially when Steph's coming off a screen or screening. Clay also so good off the ball. They're very instinctive. And in the first half, it just looked like a team who was making their threes, playing with a little more pace, and was moving off the ball versus a team that was very stagnant. Paul George wasn't playing well. He was settling for a lot of contested jumpers. James Harden wasn't hitting his 3, but I thought he was still making the right plays. And Terrence Mann, God, until the fourth quarter, it was looking really bad for him because he couldn't make a shot. It looked like he was just at the peak of being in his own head. So, like, not a good peak, not a good context here. So in his own head with his shots missing. And then defensively against Steph, Kawhi would guard Steph when Terrence was out in the first half. But both of them were just getting taken out on like every screen. Like every single screen, Steph was coming up into wide open shots. In my opinion, Zubac was dropping too deep. It wasn't even that high drop till the second half. It was just a deep drop. And to start the game, you had Terrence guarding Steph. Kawhi and PG were splitting their time on Clay and Saric, who started, by the way, over Looney. And then Dre and Zoo matched up. And Draymond Green started out this game knocking down 3 after 3, which was so frustrating. But it seemed like he got less open threes as the game went on. James Harden, Steph Curry was guarding him to start the game, and I was a little disappointed that he didn't go at him one-on-one a little bit more to begin the game. But I thought Harden was making some really good passes to Zoo early on in the game. Zoo scored our first 6 points. And even though we were down 19 at half, it was the second half where the Clippers picked up their defensive intensity. Their communication on off-ball switches was better. Their point of attack defense was a little bit better as well. So, Kawhi Leonard actually ended up switching on to Steph for the majority of the second half. And I thought he did a pretty good job. For the people that say, I was seeing after the game, people were saying that Kawhi locked up Steph. And that is just not true. Like, I'm not saying this to hate on my own player. He is our own player. He is on my team. I would not say things to hate, but I need to be honest in the assessment of the game. A lot of people do not understand modern defense. The defense is different than back in the day, and I'm a fan of old school basketball. Everybody that knows me knows that. But it's almost like I'm tempted to make film breakdowns because people don't understand what they're seeing. Look, Steph Curry was not trying to go at Terrence Mann or Kawhi or Paul George one-on-one, because why would he? With all the good things you can get in pick and rolls in today's game and all the great stuff Steph Curry gets off the ball, why would he want to go ISO against Kawhi Leonard, Terrence Mann, or Paul George? Why would he? So what he's doing is he's calling for a high screen, and Kawhi was getting taken out too. I went back because I was looking at these tweets and people are saying Kawhi locked up Steph. The last possession is true. And there was one or two possessions. I mean, he did a fantastic job. He did a better job than Terrence. But I went back and looked at all of Steph Curry's misses because he was 1 for 10 in the second half after giving us the business in the first half. And only one of those shots was Kawhi Leonard contesting. A lot of Paul George helping, just a little bit of everything, a team effort. It was not one guy guarding him like that. And then I even went back and watched all of Steph Curry's minutes in the second half, and I still came away with the same conclusion. Like, Kawhi did a good job, but he did not lock up Steph. They were still getting taken out on screens, but one of the big adjustments in the second half, though, in my opinion, was Zubac's coming up higher. You went from regular drop coverage to that high drop coverage, and I thought his contests were affecting Steph, as well as Steph just getting a little tired, because remember, no Wiggins, no Chris Paul. And even though I like their pace without Chris Paul better, it feels like more like Warriors basketball, and you play the young guys more who are a little bit quicker, more athletic. Actually, a lot quicker, more athletic. Still, right now, now that they don't have Jordan Poole, Steph Curry is still asked to create a lot for this team. Basically everything for this team. And it took a toll on him. And I give Kawhi credit. I don't want to make it sound like he was playing bad defense. I thought he was playing pretty solid defense. He was playing good defense. But there were plenty of times where they screened him and he was not even in the picture, right? But the thing about Kawhi that I love is he's always going to give his best effort on that end of the floor and stay engaged. You're never going to see bad defensive mistakes. Okay, he'll get beat backdoor or lose his man off ball, maybe overhelping a bit. But it's never like boneheaded stuff from Kawhi, which you got to love. And then James Harden in the third quarter, he had a stretch where he scored or assisted on 22 points in a 7-minute stretch where we cut it down from 21 to 7. And I think another big reason why the Clippers got better in the second half was just Paul George being more serious, defensively and offensively. He did not go to the basket in the first half like that. He was settling for a bunch of contested jumpers, even with Harden and Kawhi in the game. And then in the second half, he hit a 3 in the first couple of minutes, and he started getting going. Went to the basket, got a couple and ones, curling off the ball, knocked down his open threes, got more open threes. And again, the pace, I think, was really the difference in this game from both halves. Golden State was playing with a better pace in the first half. Clippers playing with more pace in the second half. It starts with the teams that are getting stops. You know, when you're not creating stops, you're not creating turnovers, you're not going to be able to get out and run like that. You're going to play even more half-court basketball. That's what was happening to the Clippers in the first half. They couldn't guard. And also the Warriors just making shots. They were making their threes, and they eventually kind of cooled down. Klay Thompson, in the last two halves, before this second half, he was great. He was looking like old Klay Thompson. But he cooled down. Clipper defense tightened up. And Paul George started getting more serious. But in my opinion, the player of the game was James Harden. I thought he did 1 or 2 possessions of dilly-dallying on the ball, doing too much dribbling. But besides that, I didn't have many moments where I was calling out his defense. Of course, he's not going to be able to guard Steph one-on-one. Like, that's not going to be a thing. There's not that many people on the planet that can guard Steph one-on-one. But I had not many moments, or any moments really, where I said, come on, James. Oh, James is terrible at defense, or James is not playing defense. I had no moments like that. His offense was good. He was still playing with that right mentality, which is, let me take what the defense gives me, and that means I got to look to score in the pick and roll. There was only one time where he passed up a good look, and that was on the drive where he kicked it out to Terrence Mann when he successfully got Klay Thompson in the air with a pump fake, and he was in the lane in the fourth, and he kicked it out to Terrence for 3. We had 3 wide open threes that Harden created in the fourth where it felt like we were either going to take the lead or tie the game, and they were all 3 missed in the corner by 3 different people, Terrence, Norm, and Paul. But James was really good at kind of pushing the pace in that third quarter, trying to get downhill. He knew that the bigs of the Warriors, They're not intimidating. They don't play anybody over 6'10". So Looney, Saric, they fall into that same category as the Trey Lyles and the Sabonis that we saw in James's best game as a Clipper against Sacramento. I put this one second. I mean, either this one or the Houston one. And there were 3 guys that James had luck getting by today. Or not luck, success getting by. Brandon Pajimski, who is a tough defender. He takes charges, but I don't know if he can guard point of attack against a guy like James Harden, even at this age. Dario Saric. Every time Harden saw Saric guarding him in the perimeter, his eyes lit up. And the third one was Steph Curry. Late in the game, Clippers down by 5, 111-106 after a terrible Paul George take foul. I think the game's over. Kawhi turns the ball over with that behind-the-back pass. Harden gets right by Steph, gets to the rim. We cut it down to 3. It's a 4-point game. Ty Lue draws a great out-of-timeout play, sideline out of bounds. We get Kawhi an easy layup with 11 seconds. Shot clock, game clock differential, 35 left in the game. Terrence Mann has a great contest on Steph Curry one-on-one. And then this is why I think Steve Kerr possibly made a mistake by calling that timeout. When he did that, when the Warriors were up 112-110, we got to take Harden out and put Westbrook in. And I thought Westbrook actually gave us really solid minutes in this game, regardless of what the plus-minus says. Because you want to go by plus-minus, Norman Powell was our best player on Saturday, which he wasn't. But he played well. But Westbrook, I thought especially in the second half, he gave us some really solid minutes, especially at the end of that third quarter. Some really nice passes, pushing the pace and just looking ahead. And speaking of looking ahead, big rebound off of the really good contest by Terrence, wasting no time, threw it out to Paul George, where he's coming down with a little running start. And how about the audacity of PG? Pull up 3 when you're down by 2. I'm going for the win. Bucket. That's the second game winner of the season for the Clippers. Of course, James Harden against Houston. Paul George. Last year, he hit that shot against Houston as well from the corner. And now we'll add to the collection. Paul George with another game winner in a Clipper uniform. If I had to guesstimate off the top of my head, he hit 1 in 2020. And I think he hit 2 last season. So I think he's hit about 4, maybe 5. It's about 4. But yeah, Paul George, what a shot. Clippers win it 113-112 after the last possession. Kawhi Leonard did a great job. See, he locked him up on this possession. I'll give you that. Kawhi Leonard ran him off the line, and Draymond Green was in the strong side corner. Russ came to help. Draymond Green, wide open 3 for the win, did not get it to go. And that's definitely the shot the Clippers wanted. But coming up, going to be going more in depth about the 113-112 win after trailing by as many as 22. What went wrong? How did the Big Four play overall? And some amazing adjustments and a great second half coached by Ty Lue. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. With the NFL season starting to head towards the playoff push, you've got the NHL and NBA up and running. Now is the time to go to FanDuel and place your bets. They have spreads, player props, over-unders, whatever you want, they've got it. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season or keep it going with the NBA season. FanDuel, official partner of the National Football League. All right. The Clippers winning this one 113-112 over their Pacific Division foes, the Golden State Warriors. They win it 113-112. Paul George with his game winner was the high scorer in the game for either team. He had 25 points on 8 for 17 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3. So I like that he's under 10 3-point attempts. I might be the only one in Clippers fandom that thinks Paul George should shoot a little bit less than 10 threes, unless he's scorching hot. I love that number of like 7 to 9. He had 4 for 8 tonight, and he wasn't settling. It's all about PG not settling. He got 5 free throws, and he made them all. That's a good thing. Now, it's crazy because PG had 25, 6, and 6. and 1 steal and only 1 turnover. And he shot efficiently. You would never even tell by looking at the box score that he didn't play well in the first half. He totally turned things around, and when he started playing better, the team totally changed how they were playing. So Paul George, his seriousness is the first reason the Clippers won. Second, I thought Harden was just great in terms of his offensive intentionality, looking to score. When teams went under the screen from 3, pop it. When teams are playing him over the top, try to hit the burst that he has, if he has any left. Get downhill and try to make a play. He can still turn the corner on the pick and roll and get downhill. And I thought he was doing that really well in this game. And just created a lot of good looks. And Kawhi, you got to give him credit because he was guarding Steph Curry, which took a little bit out of him offensively. But what I loved is that he was able to hit those 2 mid-ranges late in the game. Coming off the screens, nice shots. If we can get him the ball in the mid-range area late, I'm all for it. Because I think Kawhi Leonard, and honestly, you can throw James Harden in the mix there. I want them to have the ball late in the games, like the last 5 minutes. Like, I think Kawhi is the guy that should have the ball in his hands late in games. But with 30 seconds or less left, Paul George is that guy. I said it against Utah. His size and his fluidity allow him to get off a larger variety of shots than Kawhi, and he can get more separation and a cleaner look off. Kawhi, at the end of the games, there's a lot of moments where he doesn't have enough legs. He has a good defender on him, so he has to dribble too much to create separation. He doesn't ever get much elevation on his shot, and he has moments where he's dribbled way too much at times as a Clipper late in games. Paul George is that guy, and I think Kawhi has no problem with it as long as we win. And Paul George hitting that shot was huge. But I thought Kawhi was really solid in this game, just doing a little bit of everything. The guy's been playing really good basketball lately. Of course, he took the challenge of guarding Steph, and that was huge. 20 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. So a near triple-double for Kawhi Leonard, 1 steal. He did have 3 turnovers. Two of them were just atrocious passes in the second half. Fourth quarter, last 5 minutes. One, he was doubled in the post, and he threw a cross-court to Terrence that went into the 4th row. And then the other one right before that take foul I talked about where he threw it behind his back. So both bad passes. James Harden, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists. He was cold shooting the 3 ball in the beginning, but it got going. Both of his threes came in the second half. He almost had a double-double, just 1 assist away, and he only had 1 turnover, which is awesome. 7 for 14 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and 5 for 5 from the line. I thought it was a little surprising that Steph Curry was switching on to Harden in the beginning, or just guarding Harden in the beginning. But one thing the Warriors started to do late, and it actually kind of hurt them, is the showing and recovering. When we targeted Steph in the pick and roll, or Looney or Saric in the pick and roll, and they didn't want to switch onto Paul, Kawhi, or James, we got a lot of good stuff in the short roll. Terrence Mann, he had a really rough game, but after he hit a fourth quarter 3 early in the quarter, his whole body language changed. I saw how he was sitting down defensively. I saw how he was denying Steph off the ball. I saw the deflection he got to create a steal when we were down by 3. I saw his offensive rebound against Draymond. He totally changed the way he played just by making that 1 3. That confidence is crazy, man. It's such a wild thing, confidence. But Terrence made a really solid read in the short roll to find Paul George for 3 late in the fourth quarter. And then we also had some good stuff with Paul George setting the screen and getting into the short roll, which we have not seen enough of this season, really. We've seen Terrence, we've seen Kawhi screen, and teams will usually switch that. But Paul George going downhill, making short roll decisions with space is never a terrible thing, in my opinion, for the Clips. And he created a couple of solid looks. And speaking of our, people I need to talk about, actually, before I get into the centers, Russell Westbrook. He only played 19 minutes in this game, which was the second lowest of any of the 9 players that suited up for the Clippers, or that actually played, I should say. But he was good. Like, the -11 says one thing, but Russ had a lot of energy. He rebounded. He got the big rebound. He had a nice block rotating under the basket on Moses Moody where he just came out of nowhere. He had some really nice passes at the end of the third. One kick to Norman Powell in the corner. The other a bullet pass up the court to Tice. So I thought Russ was pretty solid. 8 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. 0 turnovers. So again, when James Harden and Russell Westbrook combine for less than 4 turnovers, it is always going to be a great chance for the Clippers to win. Russell Westbrook, 8 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 0 turnovers. And how about this? He's been struggling from 3. He made one of his first 2, so you know what that means. I always say 3 should be his max, And if he's made 2 of them, he should take the 4th. He was 1 for 3, but you know what? He made 1. He shot the second one in the corner, made it. 2 for 4 from 3 in the game for Russ. 2 for 5 overall. I'll take that. I'll absolutely take that. As far as the centers, I thought Zubac just continues to play well. His start offensively was really good. He was rebounding. The amount of shots that Zoo affects, I don't think people give him enough credit for. He had 3 blocks in the game. And I think you can see the chemistry with James Harden just increasing from a game-to-game basis. And, one thing I like about Harden, too, is, and Westbrook is the same thing, but Paul George and Kawhi, not so much. They're both really good, solid lob passers. They see that Zoo has a size advantage, and they throw the pass. They're not afraid to throw it because they can actually make it consistently. So, love to see that. Daniel Tice, I thought he had but Zubac didn't play, at all in the 4th, really. He got, no burn. Which, again, it's I feel bad for the guy, but because Tice was playing so well in the 4th and in the second half, I don't mind it. Daniel Tice, I thought he came in and gave some great energy in the second half. First half, it was a little rough. He had an offensive foul, missed a couple of shots. The Warriors knew he was not going to be much resistance at the rim. But second half, very active, trying his best defensively, finishing around the basket, feeding off of, the short roll guys. When a big stepped up, he would get the ball down low and finish. Good rim running. Just a very solid impact for Daniel Tice yet again, who's been really good since we've picked him up. Double figures off the bench for him. 12 points and 4 rebounds on 6 for 11 shooting in just 22 minutes. He shot 2 threes and missed them both, but 12 points in 22 minutes I will take. Ivica Zubac had 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 blocks on perfect 6 for 6 shooting in 23 minutes. So I'll take that all day as well. Zubac is playing really solid basketball lately. Only criticism I have of him is that in the second half, I think his defense fell off a bit. He was coming up a little higher, and that was causing him to sometimes fall asleep on his man, whether it be in the corner or in the dunker. And then a couple of times he overreacted on what looked like it was going to be Steph getting the ball on a handoff or something, and Draymond turned the corner on him. But overall, really solid performance by Zoo. But coming up, going to be talking about the woes. Why was it so bad in the first half? Kobe Brown's performance, and some big decisions by Ty Lue that surprised me. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Game Time. Game Time is the best place to get the best deals on last-minute tickets. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Even if you don't know if you can go till the end or a day before or even an hour into the event, Game Time has you covered with killer last-minute deals, emphasis on last minute, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what you expect to see when you arrive. And all-in prices show your total upfront so you know you're getting a great deal without any hidden fees. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA, so 2 N's, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. So the Clippers win at 113-112 over the Warriors after outscoring them in the second half 65-45. We will take that all day. The Warriors looked like they ran out of gas, looked a little slow, and their point of attack defense without Wiggins and Payton was weak, and Jonathan Kuminga did not have a great game, and they just didn't go to him in the second half like that. He only played 16 minutes, and you'd think, Kuminga is the type of body you want against Kawhi and Paul George, but they actually closed with Podziemski, who got 37 minutes in the game, tied with Steph Curry for the most. And by the way, Steph had 22 points and 11 assists, but we held him to 7 for 18 shooting. So we will take that all day. 4 for 9 from 3 is really good, but 7 for 18 shooting, I'll take that. And Klay Thompson, for how well he started, I remember Brian saying he had 17 points, but there was a lot of time left in the game when he said that. So he only actually finished 5 for 13 and 4 for 11 from 3. So we'll take that all day. The Warriors shot 44% from the field. They shot 39.5% from three, though, which was good. They shot 10 more free throws than the Clippers. There were some. Kawhi just got no calls. None. So many times he's going up and there's a hand on his body. He got nothing. 0 free throw attempts for Kawhi, which is really disappointing on the officials' part. Clippers shot 49%. They shot 4 more shots than the Dubs. 13 for 39 from three. So not great again, 33%. We shot better against the Warriors last game. But I'll tell you, it didn't feel like, especially in the first half. Second half, we got a lot of good looks from three. But first half, we did not get that many. Besides the ones like Westbrook and Terrence, where they're living with it. Paul George's weren't that clean of looks. Harden's were not bad shots, but they weren't that clean of looks. And Kawhi, I felt like, didn't get any open shots, really. All semi-contested. So I thought our offensive process was just slow in the first half. That's part of it because we couldn't get stops. So let's talk about Ty Lue's decisions, right? He had a really interesting substitution pattern in this game that we hadn't seen before. What he did was he went with Russ and Kobe Brown in for Terrence and Harden at 6:34 of the first quarter. So usually he's run with Russ and Harden having a couple minutes together towards the end of the first quarter. But in this one, he just replaced them, which is what everybody thought we were going to do. Now, Tice came in for Zoo about 1 minute and 18 seconds later. And as I said, Russ, I thought, brought some energy, hit a left wing three in that first quarter. And then, so the way Kobe Brown was being used was kind of in like spot minutes. So he would come in for short stints. Like he comes in at 6:34 and then he comes out at 2:09 for Norman Powell. Usually Norman Powell, Tice, and Russ have been coming in together, all three of them. But in this game, you had Norm come in after Kobe Brown and Russ and Tice. As for Kobe Brown, he only played 11 minutes, and I think they were kind of rough. I know people want Kobe Brown to break into the rotation and whatnot, and he has. But as I've said many times, a championship contending team, a team that has those aspirations, it may just be too high of a level for Kobe Brown right now, and I don't know if he's going to have the minutes or reps to develop. Of course, it's early. You want to see him still try and get adjusted to these things. But, blown rotations, fouling jump shooters, and then open threes, not even close. Like, really bad misses. Like, not even hitting rim, barely hitting rim. It was rough. He shot 3 shots. They were all misses, all threes. He had 3 assists. I didn't really notice him. A donut in 11 minutes, and he was a -6. He was the only Clipper player that didn't score. Terrence Mann was the second lowest scorer with 3 points. With that 3 I mentioned in the fourth from the right corner. 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. No turnovers for Terrence, which is good. 1 for 6 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. You really want to see Terrence Mann's 3-ball come back. Like, we need it. He's shooting 17% going into this game, and he was 1 for 5 from 3 in the game, so it's going to go down. We need it to be better because once that 3-ball starts falling, everything's going to change. Not just for the Clippers, but for the team. And, I think part of it, too, is Terrence Mann is not as comfortable playing in a slow pace because teams are going to dare him to shoot. He's going to get in his head even more. He's never been the best in the half court. He loves the transition game. He loves turning defense into offense. And I think, I'm not saying make a change in the starting lineup, but it should be considered maybe. I just don't know who I would start. But Russ, Terrence, Norm, PG, if you can put them on the court as much as possible together, that's ideal. Because I really do think Terrence benefits with that pace. In the second quarter, by the way, Clippers lost the first 33-22, and they would lose the second 34-26. So they allowed 67 points in the first half. James Harden, Kobe Brown, and Ivica Zubac entered for Kawhi, Tice, and Paul George. So Kawhi and Paul George played the whole first quarter, and they sat out together for 4 minutes to start the second, which I was like, oh my God. We're putting Harden and Russ together, and we have Kawhi and Paul George on the bench. I was shocked when I saw that, to be honest. But it actually didn't cost us too much. Let me just check the data there. So we started the second quarter down 11. By the time Paul George came back in, we were down 11 still. So it wasn't that costly, thank God. But it was still a little, it's still not ideal. It was Harden and Russ. So Mann came in for Russ at 9:23 of the second quarter. So we didn't have that much Harden and Russ. We had it for 2 minutes, 37 seconds, and it wasn't too detrimental. Terrence Mann comes in. And PG comes in for Kobe Brown at 7:59, and then Kawhi in for Zoo at 5:49. That's of the second quarter. And if you're wondering how long did we go small with no Zoo in, about a minute and 23 seconds, and then Tice came in for PG. So in the second quarter, Kawhi and Paul George only played 2 minutes. Actually, no, they only played about 1 minute together. We staggered PG and Kawhi a decent amount in that second quarter. And then let's see, Paul George came back in the game for the final. Oh, I guess he sat to end the second. Westbrook, by the way, came back in for man with 2:51 left in the first. So if anybody was wondering how many shifts did Westbrook get in the first half, he got 2. So yeah, not too much Kawhi or Paul together in the second quarter. And then in the third quarter, this is where I think Ty Lue had just a masterclass performance, because he started with Norm actually instead of Terrence, because Terrence wasn't playing well. And even though Norm wasn't, he did shoot 12 shots, but it was a very quiet Norm game for me. It felt like he didn't touch the ball as much as normal. He had 12 shot attempts. He made 5 of them, and he was 2 for 5 from 3, 12 points and a rebound. He was a team high plus 14. Again, I don't think that means he played the best in 30 minutes of play, but he was a positive impact, and he was spacing the floor, and I thought it was a pretty solid game for Norm overall. But you started with Norm, and then he was going to put Russ in at around the 6-minute mark for Harden, but Harden was playing so well, he told Russ to go back to the bench after the timeout. So I thought that was a great call in the moment from Ty to let James Harden keep going, because Russ was going to come in. He said, you know what? I'm going to roll with the hot hand. He's making plays right now. So he let him play for an extra 3 minutes. Russ came in for Harden at 3 minutes and 11 seconds of the third quarter. And as I said, Russ did really well with that bench unit. PG came out with 1 minute and 28 seconds left for Terrence. And then Kawhi and Norm actually played the whole third. And then Paul only rested for 1 minute and 28 seconds to end that third. He came in for Kawhi to start the fourth and played the entire fourth quarter. And I hope I didn't forget to mention this. I may have mentioned it already, but PG actually switched on a Steph towards the end, like the last 2 minutes, to give Kawhi a little breather. And that was huge. And I thought he was really solid on that end as well. He had one moment where Steph split the pick and roll, Zoo and Kawhi, in the third quarter, and PG rotated beautifully and caused a miss and got the rebound. So just a huge difference from Paul George effort-wise and attention to detail-wise in the second half. Fourth quarter, Paul George came in for Kawhi to start it. Kobe Brown came in for Norm to start it. And as I mentioned, Terrence Mann made the 3 that changed everything. And the Clippers slowly built their push and ran away with it. Not ran away with it, but came out with the win. It's so interesting because there was 6 minutes left in the third, and it looked like the Clippers, I remember Brian made a comment in commentary. It was like the Clippers are in complete disarray or something, and they were. We were down 18. We were all over the place. We turned the ball over on an inbounds pass. So it looked like we were out of it. Great fight, great resilience from the guys to show up. Even when Clay made a 3 to put the Warriors up 98-88 in the fourth, when I thought maybe we're done, they stuck with it. So Ty also went away with Russ and Terrence on the court together. He took Russ out around 9 minutes, and I thought that was going to be the end of the night for Russ. And then, as I said, Ty put him back in for that defensive possession. He ran a little offense-defense action with Norm and Terrence towards the end of the game. So really solid performance in the second half, coaching-wise, from Ty Lue. Anyway, that's it for me. Love the performance overall. It's a good win. Clippers are now 9-10. 6-8 with Harden, 6-3 with the new starting lineup. They're trending in the right direction. The thing is consistency. We don't know what we're going to get on a night-to-night basis. And this next game, by the way, 3 full days of rest, Clipper Nation. Oh, this feels so good. No Sunday, no Monday, no Tuesday. I'll be back at the arena on Wednesday against the Nuggets for our last game against them in terms of home games. That'll be our 3rd matchup against them this season, so that's nice to get them out the way. It'll be a big one. Let's see if we can redeem ourselves from that performance against Reggie and DJ. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. Locked On Clippers, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know what you thought of the episode. The age-old proverb continues, go Clippers.